peeps, what's up? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new to my channel, then welcome. I'm Lauren. So as you guys can probably tell from the title of this video, I went thrift shopping. It was actually my first time thrift shopping and I had a lot of fun. We went to like a couple different ones and I did find a couple of pieces, and one of the things that I found was this oversized like denim buttoned up shirt. I really liked it. It was a size extra large from the men's section. So I found this top and initially I wanted to wear it as like an oversized dress because I thought it would look really cute with like white socks and white sneakers. I don't know, I just had like this whole vision in my head, but I ended up deciding that I could definitely DIY it into something that was a little bit more chic, and I've seen that you guys do like my DIY designer videos, so I thought, well, maybe this isn't designer, but a $4 shirt into something that's totally wearable and in style I think is just as good. So yeah, let's get into the video. So right off the bat, I knew that I had to completely destroy the shirt, basically taking off all the pieces that made up the shirt and putting them individually so that I could like use them later on. So I decided to use a seam ripper to like basically cut all the seams around the shirt, and that took forever. That's the first mistake that I made. Definitely do not do that. If you have a shirt like me that was an extra large, obviously that's a lot of fabric that I'm not gonna need for a halter top. I also did use a seam ripper to take out the pocket, which I definitely recommend if you have a shirt that's a pretty like solid fabric. But since my shirt was denim and it was almost like a faded color, when I took out the pocket shadow was actually a different color than the rest of the top. So I decided to just not use that area where the pocket was. I ended up changing and switching to scissors, which was probably like the biggest time saver that I did in the whole project. So definitely try to use scissors if you can to cut the shirt apart. If you have something that's a size small or that is like you need all the fabric, then probably try a seam ripper, but if you don't, just cut around it. So next I took the back part of the shirt once I had removed it from all the other pieces, and I laid a shirt that I already knew fit me right on top of it. It had almost the same layout that I was looking for, so I just went ahead and traced it, and I did trace about an inch more because whenever you are going to fold the seams and sew them together, you need a little bit more space, so just keep that in mind. So then once I had that template, I just went out and cut that piece, and then I just went ahead and did almost the same process with the sides of the top that I was going to create. And for that part, I actually used the two front pieces that were held by buttons in the thrifted top. So I actually didn't measure anything to my body, which is probably a no-no in the sewing community, but since I used a shirt as a template that I already knew fit me, it wasn't like that big of a deal. Since I knew I was just going to tie the side pieces at the back of the top, I knew that I didn't need like specific measurements, but I decided to draw sort of a triangle how I thought it would fit. I did also try and measure it from the sides of the top that I had cut out to make sure that it would fit perfectly. And then what I did was I basically eyeballed it, drew it out, and then I left like a longer piece, which I drew around the pocket. That way I could use it as the ribbon that I'm gonna tie in the back. So the second mistake that I made was that I sewed all of the edges that really didn't need to be connected to anything on all of the three pieces that I had cut out. Once I had sewed all of the three sections together, I realized that all of the seams didn't match up, especially because I had used a brown thread, which you don't want to do. Try using something like a white or a beige color because it's easier for you to like not see the imperfections. So I decided to basically just fold those seams in and then sew the whole thing together so it was a nice line. Whenever it came to the strands that you have to tie around your back, I decided to stop sewing like about midway, and I sort of ended it on the corner of the shirt because I didn't want the fringe, whenever I started fringing the strands of the top, to keep on going. So then once it came to creating the strands, I decided to use a seam ripper to create the fringe, and I basically just cut the loop where I had sewed previously. So it's really important that you guys also try and leave as many of the white strands as you can because that's what's going to create the fringe. And then at the bottom of the top, since I was going to do the fringe on both sides of the strand and the strand was also connected to the bottom of the top, I also created a small stitch, just like how I had ended the top part and created like that stitch right there to stop the fringe at the top. I did the same exact thing at the bottom. Then once I did the fringe, I decided to work on the neck part of the top, and my initial thought was I wanted to create a turtleneck, and I did have a lot of fabric to actually create my own turtleneck, but I wanted something that was a lot more sturdy and not really flimsy. So I decided decided to use the collar part of the thrifted top because it was the exact same like light blue shade that I wanted. It was also very thick already, so I thought that it would be the perfect thing to put as the collar. So then once I had done that, I had to stitch the collar onto the top, and this is where I feel like I made another mistake. The top of the shirt that I cut was flat and I sewed it flat. So whenever I wear the shirt now, there's like a little bit of a crease where the rest of the fabric is sort of like bunched up. It's not that big of a deal, it still looks good, but if I had to do something, I would probably cut it a little bit into a U shape and then sew it into a U shape because that makes more sense since it has to be higher here and lower here. So I ended up taking the collar, I sized it up to my neck, and then I cut off the excess, and then I sewed the ends to make sure that they were nice and even. So then I chose one of the sides and I took the seam ripper and cut just a little tiny like dash. If you make it too small, obviously the button can't get through. If you make it too big, then the button might come out when you're wearing the shirt, which you don't want to do. So you want to make sure that you go little by little, measuring the button until you get the right size. And then once I did that, I took the same thread that I'd been using throughout the shirt and I just basically hand stitched the perimeter of the little cut that I had made just to make sure that it doesn't fray and keep opening once I put the button in. And then on the other side, I decided to stitch the button. I just placed it evenly where I had put the cut on the other one. That's exactly where I put the button, just so that it would match up whenever I wanted to close it. And then once I had sewn that, I went ahead and put on the shirt on me, and I realized that the breast area or the chest area was a little bit loose. So I went ahead, wore the shirt, and just pinned the areas that I felt had a lot of excess. And then once I took the shirt off, I decided to just invert that little section that I had done. And then I sewed that and then just cut off the excess from the inside of the shirt. And then that way I had that breast stitch, and it was also a lot flatter. You weren't gonna see any gaps, you weren't gonna be able to see like side boob or anything. So after I did that, I was done with the shirt, and I just went back and cut off any like loose strings or like extra long things that weren't perfect. I did also try and trim the fringe on the back strands to try and make it as even as possible. And then I was just done with the top. So yeah, you guys, that was the finished DIY thrifted top. I hope that you guys loved it. And if you did and you like these type of videos, make sure to comment down below because I love to know your feedback. Like always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.